So as an intro, my name is Erin Harlan. I'm part of the product marketing team here at Smartsheet. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Brendan Reed, who's also in product marketing, and he runs all of our marketing for dashboards. Welcome, Brendan.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
Yeah, we are very excited to have you here today. And today we are here to talk about some best practices for building effective dashboards. So dashboards are a communication tool in Smartsheet, really powerful. But there are some things that are really important to make them effective and to help you move from idea to impact fast. So some of the learning objectives we have today, we're going to talk about how to know your audience. We're also going to talk about how to build an effective story with your dashboard. And then Brendan's going to walk us through some best practices in a product demo to really make your dashboard beautiful and impactful. So first off, before we jump into all of that, though, let's actually start with what is a dashboard or a portal. You may see those terms interchangeably within the product. And essentially, a dashboard is a communication tool that provides that centralized place to put all of that information you want to share with an audience, whether they are your executive team or your colleagues or your customers or your vendors. It's a great way to communicate with an audience. And what's really valuable about dashboards is that all the information is live in real time. So it really gives that real-time visibility into information as it's happening so that your audience can make informed decisions. Dashboards are also great because they're both available on the desktop and our mobile app, so you can consume that information on the go. And really, the dashboard functionality, we kind of bucket into two major camps of use case scenarios. So first off is the dashboard use case scenario, which is typically really data-driven. So it has a lot of graphs or charts or metrics and reports. And dashboards are really used to surface key points of interest or KPIs, as well as status and progress, and really is a place for that key information that an audience will need to make decisions. The other sort of camp of use cases that we see is a portal use case. Same technology, same feature, but it's really, instead of being more data-driven, it's really about centralizing essential resources that your team maybe needs to use to get work done. So that includes things like links or text, or you can embed an entire form or a video or some other content. And it's a great way to centralize all that information in one place and make it really easy for your audience to get what they need to get their work done. So of course, there are hundreds of different use cases of dashboards and anywhere between these two buckets, but that's kind of how we sort of see them or think about them primarily. But of course, our objective today is to help make this communication tool effective. So we want to try and change your dashboard from something like this that's maybe very heavy in text or numbers to something like this that is visual and is very easy from at a glance to understand what's happening or to make some key insights really quickly. So a couple things that are really important to understand before you even start building a dashboard or a portal. The first one is to know your audience. And that means that first off, you need to define who is the audience that I'm building this dashboard or portal for. Are these stakeholders my executives? Is it my colleagues? Are they customers? Are they vendors? And then what is the purpose of this particular dashboard? What do I want my audience to get out of it? Do I want them to make a certain decision, or do I want them to fill out something or do something? So who's my audience and what's the purpose? And after you define those two things, then you want to also determine what data do you actually need to support that purpose. And sometimes that may mean that you need to do some back-end work to get that data prepared. Maybe you need to build a report, or maybe you need to do some aggregation and calculation to sum up some totals to make sure that you have the appropriate data to put into that dashboard. And then thirdly, you want to think about the delivery method for your dashboard. Where are my audience and how are they going to be consuming this? Are they going to be sitting at their desk in front of their computer, or are they going to be consuming it on the mobile device? Maybe they're on the go, they're in a meeting. I have field workers out in the field that aren't sitting at a desk all day. And what's my delivery method? And just make sure that I'm optimizing for that delivery method.
Yeah, and so we actually do support dashboards on mobile, so that's a great point, Aaron. When you're creating that story, when you're figuring out the delivery method itself, make sure that you remember the mobile component, especially you have that field team. They're not going to want to see these huge charts, paragraphs of text. Just think about what are those KPIs that they care about, they need to see, and that really helps you dictate how you're to go and actually create your layout. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we actually get into the demo.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. The next thing, of course, is once you've defined your audience and all the components for that, then you want to make sure that you're building an effective story with your dashboard. So your dashboard is a communication tool, and you really want to make sure that it's focused on the particular content that you really want to deliver, because people don't want to read through tons of text or scroll. You don't want it to be a novel. You want to be able to define quick insights from your dashboard. So think of it almost like a quick elevator pitch. So your dashboard should really be focused on one topic or one piece of content. And what's nice about dashboards is that you can link them together. So if you have a different focus that you want, you can actually create a whole separate dashboard and link it to another one and kind of move people through the way you might move them through pages on a website. But think about keeping each dashboard really focused on the particular topic at hand, so that it's really clear for people what this story is about. Also, use visuals. It's a visual tool, and as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you want people to be able to understand what's happening quickly. So utilize things like color and charts or images or videos or things that can really help you in a visual manner communicate the story that you're trying to tell. And then thirdly, when you're thinking about building that story, make sure that you have a really clear call to action of what you want people to do with this information. Again, are you asking them to make a decision? Are you just informing them? Is there an action that they need to take? And make sure that you make that clear on your dashboard as well.
I love your point about visuals. I mean, it's so critical when we talk about having your data tell that story. Leverage those visuals to accomplish that. And like you were saying, charts really help with that. Images maybe could act as a navigational tool. We'll look at that in a little bit, but take advantage of that. Again, back to that point, don't have rows of data. Maybe it's best to summarize that information in a chart, and it's much more interesting to look at anyway. So that's great ways you can, again, have your data tell that story.
Yep, absolutely. And then, of course, the third thing to think about are some of these best practices. And Brendan's actually going to walk us through some of these in a demo. But first off, just kind of at a high level, some important best practices to think about are, again, keep your dashboard concise. As we talked about just before, when you think about that story, keep the story focused, and think about keeping your dashboard really to a one page at a maximum. You don't really want it to be scrolling for days to find information. You really want to make the information quick and easy to find. And as I mentioned before, you can connect information together. You can link dashboards together. You can add links to other resources. So you can use that effectively to help with your story and keep it concise. Also, when you think about the layout of your dashboard, that's really, really important. Again, this is a communication tool. And you should think of it the way that people read. So in Western cultures, for example, we tend to read from left to right and from top to down. So when you're putting your information on your dashboard, think about putting your most important information in the upper left-hand corner and then moving in terms of priority to the right and down, so that you're ensuring that your audience is consuming the most important information first. And then thirdly is make sure that you're using the appropriate widget for the information that you're trying to communicate. So we have 8 different widget types in Smartsheet, and they are very clearly defined and designed for specific types of information and can really help add some power to those different information sources. So making sure you're using the right widget will give you the most bang for your buck with your dashboard.
Those are really great points. I love your point about being concise. If I have an executive that's coming to a dashboard, they're not going to want to scroll through pages of content. That's why, again, like you were saying, layout as well. It's so critical. Put that information at the top. What do they care about? And that's really going to be your recipe for success when it comes to, actual best practice for these dashboards.
Great. Well, with that, I would love to hand it over to Brendan to actually walk us through a demo of some of these things and show us some of these tips and tricks and best practices in action.
Great, thanks, Aaron. So I'm going to hop into my live Smartsheet environment here. And so great, we've got my dashboard right in front of me. At the core, Smartsheet dashboards are built around 8 widgets. Now the 8 widgets you can see directly from the edit screen. So if I'm going here, click add widget, here's a view of everything that's currently available to you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk you through every single one of these widgets on this dashboard, and I'm going to briefly go through a few of the widgets that I would say are a little bit more tricky to use, and so I can give you some best practices around that. So the title widget itself is a best practice. You want to make sure that if I'm a viewer, I'm coming to this dashboard, what am I looking at? It gives people context. So this is an example dashboard, but I could rename this to be whatever I want. It could be sales dashboard, real estate dashboard, you name it. The nice thing about this, you've got full formatting options in the title widget itself. And so this example, I see you've got blue text, I have my little call out for the title widget, but I could add a background color if I really wanted to emphasize this. And I can also change the text color itself. So you can kind of customize that however you like. One best practice that I always recommend, make it the full width at the top of your dashboard. This just really helps with formatting. The grid lines itself are great and they can help you line things up. But if you go the full width of the dashboard, then you can ensure that it's actually center aligned at the top of your dashboard itself. Now, my first pro tip for the day, you might be wondering, what is this blue line that I have on my dashboard right here? Well, this is actually a title widget also. The fun thing that you can actually do with the title widget, so this is one I've created, I just added a background color. That's it, there's no text, nothing else on here. And so you can format this however you want. The smallest you can do is about 2 box sizes right there. But I've just basically put this at the top of my dashboard here. And that's just a great way to help organize and visually, pull this dashboard together. And so that I've got my title and I got my section, and now I have the rest of my content underneath that. Now, the next widget I'm going to talk about is the shortcut widget. And Aaron was talking about this a little bit in terms of navigational elements. This is a key component for navigational elements in terms of dashboards. Oftentimes, customers will use these links to take them to other dashboards that are actually connected to the first dashboard they were looking at. Say this was a sales dashboard, it was my sales manager dashboard. Maybe I wanted to drill into a specific region. I could have links to those dashboards right here. So super powerful. Another great part about this is I can actually add files as well as other Smartsheet items directly to the shortcut widget itself. So super powerful, and it's a great way to surface files. So if you have PDF files, other documents, just add it through a shortcut, and then it can click the links right here and access it right away. My next one that I'm going to talk about is image widgets. Again, this plays off of that navigational theme that we were talking about earlier, because you can actually change interactions on images themselves. I love this widget because it really lets you customize your dashboard, make it your own. And like we always talk about, we're trying to empower you to create these beautiful dashboards and really take it to the next level. I feel like the image widget really helps you do that. And so going back to changing the interactions, this one, I've got a contact HR button. We're kind of faking the button, it's an image, but because I'm changing the interaction on this, it really acts like a button. So I've got smartsheet.com/HR here, and maybe that would be my link for actually contacting HR at our company. But the nice thing is, click save, and it's interactive. So I could actually click on this and it would take me to that page itself. So the next one I'm going to talk about is the metric widget. Metric widget is super powerful because it really taps into the power of the sheet itself. And what I mean there is I'm able to surface, this is a KPI that I'm adding to my dashboard here, but I'm able to surface, that key metadata right on the dashboard itself. For this example, maybe I had that sales manager that we've been talking about was looking at this dashboard. He doesn't care about every single opportunity that's currently in the pipeline. Maybe he just cares about, great, what's our plan for the quarter? What's our actuals for the quarter?
This is a great way to surface those two key numbers or any other KPIs you have right through the widget itself. So what I've done for this one, I actually have an underlying sheet that's surfacing the data through this metric widget. And so all you would do here is just select those items from your sheet, and then it pulls it right. It's all real time, so you don't have to worry about the data itself actually being up to date. It's pulling it right from these two cells right here. Oops, looks like I got another element pulled in there. Let's go ahead and delete that. Nice thing about these is if you accidentally add data that you don't want, right from here you can actually clean that up. You can see the little X right here and get rid of those elements that you've accidentally added, or at least I've accidentally added. So the next one I'm going to talk about is the chart widget. Now, chart widget is a great way to take your data and visualize it. It's super powerful because you want your data to tell a story. As someone viewing this, I don't want to go line by line, back to talking about that sales manager again. I don't want to go line by line. I want that quick view, the quick status on the team, how sales are going. For the example I have here, I've got sales by region, split out by month. And the great thing about this, and let me go back here so we can take a look and actually interact with this. The great thing about the chart widget, and I've got a stack bar chart here, but I can actually hover. I get that finite detail that I'm looking for. So great, North region 60K for the month of January. But I can also see that total because it's stacked bar. And then one of my favorite parts about the chart widget, it's interactive in the sense where I can click these and I can drill down and just see the North region. I can see Northwest, but it lets you manipulate this data and make it your own. You can really adjust it to get the information that you're looking for. So super powerful in that sense. And we'll dive into the chart widget and we'll build one in a second here, but just at a high level, that's kind of the power and how you're able to visualize the data itself. Now, you might be seeing this and wondering, well, wait, Smartsheet doesn't have a contact widget. What's this? One of my favorite things, and I'll call this my second pro tip for the day, is using the metric widget to create a contact widget. I've seen a lot of our reps do this, and what they're actually doing is, so I have this referenced to my source sheet, and I have a single column here. Look, there I am, and I'm clicking that one. I hit OK, and it pulls in my contact information. So why would I do that? The nice thing about that is I can hover over this. So if I had my contact information on my Smartsheet profile, I would see all that information right there. In terms of scaling, that's huge because you don't have to have it be contingent on like a sales rep to fill out their contact information. You can have that all connected automatically, and it's always updated based on what you have in Smartsheet itself.
And that's using a contactless column type in a sheet, correct?
It is. And the nice thing as well, and thanks for bringing that up, Aaron, now with multi-contact, I could surface multiple people. I mean, so we're, again, talking about tapping into the power of the sheet itself through metric widget. We're really showing that here and creating a contact widget in essence.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the next widget I'm going to talk about here is the rich text widget. Rich text widget is a great way to add context to a dashboard. If I'm viewing this, maybe you can add a little narration around what is this? Why do I care? What data should I be looking at? In this case, I've got a quick little status here. If I was a sales manager, back to talking about that example, I can maybe give my team an update. Like, great, here's the key wins for the quarter, or here's some new widgets that have been added. Here's some new data. Basically, like, what's the call out? What should they be looking at? One best practice that I would highly recommend and really push is keep rich text short. The dashboard itself is supposed to tell a story. People don't want to necessarily be reading through paragraphs worth of text. Have your data tell that story through these different widgets, the elements like the chart widget, have those tell the story, not your actual narration. Just keep it to like a nice status. That's what I like to see. And again, that really helps us back to, the best practice you were talking about, Aaron. Everything is on one page. If you're adding those paragraphs of text, you're not going to stick to one page.
Right, exactly.
Great. So the next one I'm going to hop into is actually the report widget. Report widget's great because you're tapping into the power of the report itself. And as we all know, or if you don't know, this will be good information for you. Reports connect multiple sheets and surface that data that you've defined in real time. And it's a great way to create a portfolio view. And so the report widget is basically allowing you to surface that information real time on the dashboard. Great, all that data I care about is in one place. The nice thing about the report widget is you can get that Gantt functionality too. So maybe if we were doing some project planning and I need to see start end dates, you can pull that in. In this case, we've got our sales deals here, and I can see the actual length of the sales cycle. So I get an idea of how long that's been going on, what's the status, all real time, and super, super powerful if you need to see that finite detail and surface it on the dashboard itself.
And what's nice about this one too is that whoever is consuming that information on the dashboard doesn't have to be shared to the underlying data.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a great way to really control data visibility, as you just raised. And you say, great, rep, this is the one place that you go to look at your information, and you've restricted what they are able to see. So
yeah, also very powerful.
Yes. And the last widget we're going to talk about before I hop into actually building a couple of these is the web content widget. Web content widget is great because it actually allows me to surface content that's living outside of Smartsheet directly on the dashboard itself. And so if you want to add YouTube videos, if you want to add Tableau reports, you now have an opportunity to do that. And it's great. You know, before I would have multiple tabs pulled up. I've got my Tableau report, I've got, you know, maybe videos, but I have to go to these different places to find what I care about. Now I can surface that in one place for my team. Super powerful. I know I keep saying that, but these are ways we're really trying to empower people to do their work in one place, and like you were talking about, really centralize things. So in this case, I've got my YouTube video here. The nice thing about this, it's all live, it's all interactive, so this is not opening up a new tab. I'm actually playing the video right there. It's really a lens into where that content is. And now if I had a Tableau report here, Power BI, you name it, it's all interactive. So it's like I have the new tab pulled up, but directly in the dashboard itself.
Yeah, that's great. So you don't have to send people to a billion different places.
Yes.
They can just consume all of that right here in the dashboard.
Exactly. So those are our 8 widgets that we actually currently offer. I'm actually going to pivot here to building some of these. I showed you this briefly, but I'm going to go ahead and re-add the title widget here to create that section. So you can kind of see how I'm doing this real time. Changing the background color. Boom, add that, and now I've got a clear section before I'm actually presenting that content on the dashboard itself. Now we've got a couple elements that are also missing here. One thing I would recommend, anytime you're making major changes to the dashboard, save. If you get too far down the rabbit hole and you've made all these changes and you've gone the wrong direction, it can be pretty painful if you have to click cancel and you maybe wanted to keep some of that stuff. Just save. As soon as you make one change, just save. Highly recommend it because then you're going to avoid some of that pain. So let's actually hop into that contact widget. You know, I briefly mentioned that before when we were looking at that other dashboard, but I want to show you how I'm doing this. So I'm going here. I'm going to search for my input sheet real quick. Let's do a quick search. There's my source sheet. And again, what I'm doing is I'm selecting my actual contact. It's pulling that information in real time. So I go ahead and click OK. And now I'm center aligning. So by default, everything's left aligned when you actually create a net new widget itself. I like to center align stuff. It just puts more emphasis around it. In this case, maybe this is the rep that's involved in a deal. Great. Well, I've surfaced his contact information. It's updated real time based on his Smartsheet profile information. And then what I'll do is actually, let's go ahead and change the size. Boom, so now I can actually see my full name. Click Save. There you go. So it's pulling in that information again. We talked on that, so I won't spend too much time there focusing on that one. And let's actually show you the chart widget. So this is one thing that we often hear feedback around. And so I want to show you kind of step by step how I'm creating this chart and adding it to this dashboard itself. So I've got my input here for the chart widget, and my boss has asked me about basically month by month sales results by region. So what I'm going to do, I've got my sheets all defined by month. Here are our totals, and here are our regions. I'm selecting everything. I'm going all the way across, but I'm not going to bring in our totals because we'll get those totals by aggregating this data on the chart itself. It's really important. The column header itself that we have here is the primary column on your sheet is actually going to be the data label when you create that legend for the chart. So I'm going to click OK. And now by default, we show a line chart, but there's a lot of different charting options that we actually offer. There's smooth line, stepped line, a lot of different types of bar charts. The one I'm actually going to use for this one is stack bar chart. And this goes back to aggregating that data. My boss wants to see those totals and the breakdown by region. So this is going to be the best way for me to display that so we can see that total information. Now there's a way you can actually create some more, like I'd say like a deeper dive chart itself. Under series, and I know we're kind of jumping forward here, there's a lot of options like fill, so you can basically change how you're displaying your data. And this is not just, this is our smooth line chart we have here. That's not just smooth line. If I had done a donut chart or a pie chart, I can actually do semicircle or semi-pie. We just offer a lot of different ways where you can actually visualize that data depending on what your need is.
And what I like about what the Smartsheet chart widget does is that it's smart. It looks at the data that you're pulling in, and it actually recommends chart types that are going to be applicable to the set of data that you've selected.
Absolutely. So if I had maybe a single row of data, maybe just totals, it would recommend pie chart, for example, because that's the best way to display that information. Great. Love that point. Thanks for bringing that up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to need to add a title, because what am I looking at? This will help give that context. I'm going to go ahead and change the size, and maybe I'm going to add a background color to give this a little bit more emphasis here so it really stands out when I'm looking at this dashboard itself. We were talking about priority, importance. When you're using the appropriate widget, adding elements like background color help to really emphasize what you want the viewer to look at. So keep that in mind when you're designing these. Just little tweaks like that can really go a long way to make these more powerful. So what I'm going to do, by default, my legend's on the right-hand side of this chart. I'm going to go ahead and move it to the bottom just so I've got a more, larger view of those results. I'm going to add horizontal axis so you can quickly see when these months are. And I'm going to add those grid lines so you can easily follow, like, great, this in July we cracked the $1 million mark. That's awesome. Now, one thing to note is the colors. You can change the colors for each of these, like, in this case, regions that we've defined. I would recommend, a good best practice, if you have a consistent color theme that you use across all your charts, make it consistent. And what I mean by that is if north is blue, make sure that north is blue across all your charts. So if I'm looking at this and I need a quick view of maybe how the north region is doing, I can easily see that by saying, oh, there's blue there, blue there, blue there on those different charts. And as I'm pointing to these charts in the air, it just helps folks really have consistency across the data that they're viewing. And so again, consistent themes. In terms of changing those, so what I've done here, I've got my drop down, I click north, and you have the full color picker here, and I could change the colors if I wanted to. I'll change it to dark blue. But you could do that for all of these, and again, that's just underneath the drop down here. And the last thing that's available to you for the actual chart widget is data labels. So if you wanted a real granular look and you wanted each of these cells to actually call out those totals, you can define that here. You can click the data labels and it'll pull that information in. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as a best practice. You can just hover over these and it's a much easier way to see that data without it just being in your face. But again, if you need that level of granularity right off the bat, that's still available to you. So I've got my sales total chart here. One thing that you can do that I did not mention is edit data. So this is great because I can actually restrict the columns that I'm selecting. And excuse me, actually, I meant to click select columns. So under select columns, maybe I just want January through June. I can do that. So I want my column headers because that's how I'm getting my table of contents. But I'm going to go ahead and select through June. And now the nice thing is my chart has actually shrunk to just see those months because maybe my boss has asked for that view instead of the whole year. You have that flexibility to change that chart as you like. So I'm going to go ahead and click save, and let's go ahead and pop that back into that area we had it on the other dashboard, because that's what I want my boss to look at. That's the, again, in terms of priority, I've got that at the top. I've got more emphasis on it because I've got that background color. I want his eyes to be drawn to this. And so the last one I'm going to talk about is the web content widget. It's a super powerful widget. You know, I keep saying that, but it's really how you're taking your dashboards to the next level. You know, we've talked about Tableau, we've talked about YouTube, and I really want to show you how to take advantage of some of the stuff that we actually have directly in Smartsheet. And what I mean by that is you can actually embed Smartsheet forms and Smartsheet publish sheets directly into your dashboard itself. It's great because oftentimes I will link a form using this shortcut widget. As we know, that opens it in a new tab. That can often be a dead end for users, and that can be a little painful because it takes you out of context to what you're actually looking at on the dashboard itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sheets. This is the one I actually have a form on, and I have a form here for new deals. I want my reps to actually fill out their new deals directly from the dashboard itself. So what I've done here under the form menu, I'm going to click Get Embed Code. I'm going to go ahead and copy my iframe code. Now, it's important to note we have a list of sources that we actually support for the web content widget, and I'd highly recommend checking out our help articles. We actually have great step-by-step instructions on how to embed each of these. But in order to embed a source onto a dashboard, it needs to support iframe code. You'll often just see it as embed code, like on Tableau or another source. For this one, this is the iframe code for this specific form. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this one. And I'm going to go back to my dashboard. So I'm going to go Add Widget, Web Content Widget. And this is a great way for reference. These are our current, this is the current list of supported sources for the web content widget. But for this form, I'm going to go select URL, paste. And just a quick link for you, this is actually a link directly to the help article. So it's always available to you. I know a lot of these, and we're kind of contingent on the source itself. If it's difficult to embed it, this is a great place to actually go and reference and understand, like, great, I hit this barrier, there's those instructions, here's how I can actually get around that. But so I've pasted my, my code for that form, boom. And just like that, I've got the form directly on the dashboard. I'm going to take off the title on this one just because I already have a title on my form. It feels a little redundant. I'm going to click Done, and I'm actually going to put it in that space where we had that video before. And I'm going to try to keep to my one-page rule. Now, the only issue, and I might want to rearrange this just because the form itself, I probably would want to show more of the form. But in this case, I'm going to restrict it so we have everything on one page. And I'm going to show you here. Let's go ahead and click Save. I've got the form right there, and let me just show you. Brendan's new deal. I don't necessarily need any of this other information. Sure, let's do the date though. And I'm going to hit Submit. And just like that, I've maybe submitted a new deal. It's great because I'm doing that right from the dashboard. I'm kept into context. I'm not asking my team to go other places to do these submissions. And I've actually made this one refresh so they would actually be able to do a new form submission right from the dashboard itself. Super powerful. Again, these are ways that you can really up-level these dashboards like we've been talking about. Really recommend taking advantage of these pro tips that I've leveraged. And that should hopefully give you a good look into what you're actually able to do on these dashboards. Take them to the next level.
That's awesome. What about background colors, Brendan?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Erin. So background color is key. Kind of one of our best practices. If you want to build your dashboards with the gray background, we recommend that because you can actually see the widgets themselves. And helps you with organization, lining up the grid lines. But if I want to actually change the background color, I've gone here, I clicked Edit, going here, click White, Close, Save, and just like that, I mean, even just changing the background color has made this thing look so much better. So that's a quick win right there, and I'd maybe call that my next pro tip of the day.
Thank you so much, Brendan. We really appreciate you sharing with us some of those dashboard best practices. So let's actually do a quick recap of some of the things that Brendan just walked us through and some of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the webinar. First thing, of course, is to know your audience. Dashboards are a communication tool, so you do want to make sure that you target who that audience is that you're speaking to, and then what is the purpose of this dashboard, and really define that before you start building out your content. as a communication tool, make sure that you're telling a comprehensive story with your dashboard or portal. And you can do that by using visuals to help you tell that story. Again, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And make sure that you have a clear ask or a call to action in your dashboard or in your portal so that people understand what they're supposed to do with this information. And then, of course, make sure you keep it short to 1 page if possible. Nobody wants to read a laundry list of information. The idea is that this is going to give that quick, real-time visibility to your audience so that then they can take action with that information. As Brendan showed us as well, it's important to use the appropriate widget for your data. We have 8 different widget types available today, and all of those different widget types are customized to utilize certain types of data within your dashboard. So making sure you're using the appropriate widget type really helps provide value and impact with your information. And then last but not least, you can leverage some of those pro tips that Brendan was showing us in terms of using color and alignment and how to take advantage of some of those tips and tricks, taking your dashboard to the next level. Well, we do have a bit of time left for some question and answer. As we mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of people on this webinar today, so we're probably not going to be able to get to all questions. Don't worry, though, if we aren't able to get to your question live during the webinar, we are going to be answering all those questions offline via email after the webinar. So you will get an answer to your question. It just may not be in the next couple of minutes here. But Brendan, I'm going to read a couple of these questions to you, if you wouldn't mind answering some of these.
Yeah.
One that's coming in is, can anyone create or edit a dashboard?
No, only licensed users can create a dashboard. Only an owner or admin on a dashboard can actually edit. Everyone else is a viewer for that dashboard itself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's only 2 permission levels on a
Yes.
dashboard.
Yes.
Great. Okay, what about, can you share your dashboard with anyone?
You can. The nice thing about dashboards and Smartsheet in general is you actually share that out to anyone. One fun thing that you can actually do with publish links, and this is something we had kind of talked about, is that lets you give that link to anyone. They don't necessarily need to be a Smartsheet user themselves. They can actually view that anytime. It's a great way to share that with the boss, maybe someone else that isn't licensed. So.
That's awesome. So people don't even have to have a Smartsheet account or even know what Smartsheet is to be able to consume information on a dashboard.
Absolutely. Very flexible.
Great. Can someone help me build a dashboard?
Yeah, so if you need help building a custom dashboard or solution, we have a consulting team here at Smartsheet that actually can help you facilitate that. And basically you say, hey, this is what I like to do. They come back with a proposal and they can help you from there.
Great. So, Brendan, one more question. What plans are dashboards available on?
Absolutely. Dashboards are available on most plans currently. If you're on a plan that doesn't have dashboards but you want to upgrade, I'd recommend contacting your sales rep.
Okay, great. Yeah, so if dashboards are something that you are interested in adding to a plan, or if you need help building a custom dashboard, you can definitely reach out to your account representative. And if you're not sure who that person is, you can simply reach out to sales@smartsheet.com or our contact form on our website, and they will connect you to the appropriate person to help you. So great, we are at time today, and I do want to be respectful of people's time. Just a quick tip as well, if you want to learn more about dashboards and the widgets and some of the other functionality, you can visit our Learning Center at smartsheet.com/learning center. It's full of great step-by-step tutorials, as well as recordings of webinars and templates that you can download, and a bunch of other self-service resources to learn more about Smartsheet. So again, that's the best place to go learn more about all the content that we talked about today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Brendan, for sharing your tips and tricks with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for joining us today. We hope you're as excited about dashboards as we are, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.